And I also believe that it is not going to be status quo. It is the Myanmar of tomorrow is not definitely going to be the Myanmar of pre-1920. So there will be a change. We do not know what will be the level or the phase of autonomy that the different groups will get, but some autonomy will definitely be there. We are all aware that General Aung San had actually offered autonomy to the different ethnicities there. He was killed, and his successor took the ill-advised decision of making it a very centralized state, which never worked. Particularly since 1962, the conflicts have been going on for decades and decades, and now it has become a full-blown civil war. So I think that through this process, an opportunity will come out. And this is the time, I think, for the international community to act properly so that whenever a solution to the larger Myanmar problem is coming up, the Rohingya issue must form an integral part of it. And a solution on the basis of their rights and their security must be found. One or two positive indications. The NUG was the first entity which called the Rohingyas as Rohingyas. No other Myanmar authority has done it. Two, they had promised that in the new Myanmar, Rohingyas were going to be returned with dignity and with rights. Now, the NUG is not winning the war as such, but there is perhaps, for them, there will be an important seat in the table when the resolution comes. Because there is although they are not the biggest armed group, meaning their supporters are not the strongest armed group, but then there are the detached units which are working, supposedly under the NUG. And NUG, because of the popular base of the government, they will be in the table, and at that time, they have to be reminded that you have promised this thing. So I think that will be an opportunity that will come for the Rohingya.
Sir, you just spoke about the role of the international community, and ASEAN members can play a huge role. How do you assess the role of the ASEAN countries in resolving the crisis?
Actually, ASEAN has its own limitations. There are provisions in the charter which say that they will not interfere in internal affairs of other countries. But there are certain situations which, although internal affairs of some countries do not really remain internal affairs, because, for example, for Bangladesh, the atrocities committed on the Rohingyas in Myanmar is not an internal affair of Myanmar. It has affected other countries also. I think this is a situation in which the other countries also have to take cognizance, because the Rohingya boat people have reached up to the shores of Australia. There are quite a number of diaspora who have so-called illegally, I would say irregularly, entered other countries in the region. So this is no longer an issue which is purely internal affair of Myanmar. That way, and then the ASEAN has taken some actions against Myanmar already after the coup. So it's not that they do not interfere in anything or in any situation. I think the voice of most of the countries on the Rohingya issue is muted, but there are some friends who are ready to speak out a little bit and a little bit louder, and we are taking it up with them, and notably Malaysia, Indonesia to some extent, and we hope that the ASEAN, when it's not may not be the crunch time, but when the crunch time comes, ASEAN will take a more proactive role.
Next question is about burden sharing. Bangladesh has been disproportionately carrying most of the demographic burdens of hosting Rohingyas, and many other developing partners were also supporting us by carrying the financial burdens. With declining foreign aid, are there going to be more financial burdens on the government of Bangladesh? If yes, how are you going to deal with this?
I'm afraid it might be. Because too many things are popping up in too many places in the world, and there is some sort of disaster fatigue coming up among the external community. Particularly with the new attitude of the USA, it might become even more difficult, but then fortunately for the Rohingyas, the USA has not dried up. I hope it will not. And I would expect that, you see, the Rohingya issue is not a Bangladesh problem, it's a problem of the international community. It has remained confined to our territory so far. But I have warned all my friends wherever I had the opportunity to speak or give my opinion that this is not going to remain a problem of Bangladesh alone if you do not resolve it in good time. Because we must remember that at least 500,000 young Rohingyas are there in the camp. The number is going up every year. Someone who had come here at the age of 10 is now in his mid-teens. So if you think of this thing, you don't expect a 20-year-old with no light at the end of the tunnel to just sit tight and accept whatever life is offering them. So these people will become desperate. And desperate people will take desperate steps. So that will not affect only Bangladesh. That will harm Bangladesh, I know. But that will also harm others in the region, maybe beyond. So it is in the interest of the international community that they must take care of this problem and resolve.
Next questions are about the challenges to repatriation. In the first question, and in response to the question, you made it categorically clear that repatriation is the only solution. The question is, what are the biggest challenges to repatriation of the Rohingyas to Myanmar, and how Bangladesh is likely to address those challenges?
Tough question. Okay. Well, we have been facing these challenges. The challenges are there. I think the first challenge, day-to-day challenge is that we have to provide for them adequately in such a way so that they can sustain themselves. One, this is a challenge itself because, as we have already mentioned, that if not completely, but then external aid is slightly reducing, if not drying up completely. So that's the challenge that we are facing. I cannot give a straight answer that how we are going to face the challenge. We will cross the bridge as the river comes, but then it is for sure that we surely will not allow a population in our living in our territory to starve. Of course, we will take care of that, and I am confident that we will be able to convince our friends in the international community to come up with the minimum required assistance so that we can do it easily. The bigger challenge, of course, is getting them back to their land. I insist in every possible forum, I insist on a roadmap. In years when I was not in the government, it's just only 6 months less than that, I'm here. I was a free person, I used to write and I used to speak. And I did not favor the 2 or 3 attempts to send a token number of Rohingyas as sort of test case or pilot projects, etc. In my opinion, a pilot project must be a first part of a complete roadmap. If we had agreed, if the Rohingyas had agreed to go, 500 or 5,000 whatever it is immaterial, because there's a minuscule proportion of the total number, it would have been a media coup for the Myanmar regime. They would say that, well, we have resolved it with them. Look, we have started the repatriation, we have resolved the issue with bilaterally with Bangladesh. You all don't need to bother. That would have been their position, and that would have been disastrous. Now, my point is that, of course, we have to start someday. Of course, we have to start in a small way, but we must have a larger roadmap that how we are going to resolve it. Let it take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but saying this all 1.2 million people or whatever the number by that time it becomes, we are having 32,000 children every year. So a roadmap must be there that we shall do it, complete this process in such and such time. And then we go for pilot project, we go for a token beginning. There is no problem.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, sir, may I request you to come to the podium?
Yes, sir.
next to the honorable foreign advisor. So we're having a question answer session with the honorable foreign advisor, and I'm in the fifth question of my scheduled question. The next question is, given China's close ties to Myanmar, what specific role can China play in influencing Myanmar's policies regarding the Rohingya population?
China from the very beginning has expressed their commitment that yes, the Rohingyas have to go back to their place and be integrated there. That is the theoretical position, but then not much steps, practical steps have been taken. You are aware that very recently I had a visit to China, and this issue was discussed. Before this, we had a meeting in informal interaction. It said informal interaction of all the countries bordering Myanmar, and at the invitation of the Thai foreign minister. So we had about 1.5 days meeting on that. And I think the role of China in the ultimate repatriation of the people, everyone recognizes, we also do recognize. Because China is one country which has tremendous interests in Myanmar. It has tremendous interest in Myanmar because it gives them the opportunity to reach the Bay of Bengal and beyond, in the Indian Ocean and Africa, Europe, Middle East, through Myanmar. And their projects are already there, connecting the Kunming and Yunnan province. To the sea through Myanmar. So they have serious interest in that. I have tried to impress upon them that you need peace in the Rakhine state, because you reach the Bay of Bengal ultimately through the Rakhine state. So you need peace in the Rakhine state, and peace in the Rakhine state is not possible unless you resolve this issue of the Rohingyas. They also have a big plan for investments. I have told them that these people can also be workers in your future investments in the Rakhine state. And I also told them that for us, Myanmar basically means Rakhine, because our border is mostly with Rakhine. We have a little bit of a border with the Chin state, which at this moment is also under the occupation of the Arabian Army. So these are the two things which I have tried to impress upon them, and then they have, the Chinese foreign minister has assured that he will be all help in trying to resolve this issue. They are trying to bring in a solution through discussions, and with all the parties. They have links with all the parties. So we have requested that they put in their efforts to resolve this issue peacefully, because it's in the interest of Bangladesh, but it is also in the interest of China to have a peaceful Myanmar.
Thank you, sir. As a student of internationalization, we understand that UNHCR has a global mandate for refugee protection. But it's quite puzzling to many of us when we see that the mandate for refugee protection in Cox's Bazar were distributed among between UNHCR and IOM. How do you see this distribution of responsibilities to these two international institutions? And also hear that in Geneva there was a tug of war between these two institutions. I know you are in the government, but before coming to the foreign, you were part of the civil society, and we're an academia. We have 300 audience here with the 150 students. Would you like to address this question and enlighten us?
Well, there is a small puzzle here, which is that technically the Rohingyas are not refugees. We do not address them as refugees, and we have not signed the convention either. So that way, but we accepted the position of the UNHCR to take care of them. I am not aware how the two organizations got involved, but normally it should be only the UNHCR. The basic premise for me as part of the got involved, but normally it should be only the UNHCR. The basic premise for me as part of the government now is that don't mend unless it is broke. don't interfere with the system that is working. So the half the work is given to IOM, half the work is given to UNHCR. They have accepted each other somehow, and both of them are doing a good work, I would say. And the issue is being taken care of. So we don't want to interfere in it and let it continue as it is going.
Do you see the global response to the Rohingya crisis as adequate? And how do you assess the role of the Arakan army and its effect on the prospect for Rohingya repatriation in Myanmar?
I think here are 2-3 points. One is that, as I said, that for Bangladesh, Myanmar basically means Arakan, or Arakan, whatever it is. Of course, there's the central government, and then we have interactions with the central government, which does not have its writ doesn't run in Rakhine State. So that puts us in a very precarious situation. The thing is that every party which is involved in this affair or resolution of the affair recognizes that de facto the Arakan army is in power in the Rakhine State. So completely avoiding them will not resolve the issue. Now, of course, it's a non-state actor, and then we cannot per se be in negotiation with a non-state actor. But there are some things, for example, the humanitarian assistance, humanitarian corridor sort of thing. We have allowed, even when Arakan army has taken over, we have allowed medicines to pass to Myanmar because it's a humanitarian issue. We have allowed the UNHCR to give relief to the other side. And these things are happening. And I'm sure that there are informal discussions of other people, not the government per se, going on with the Rakhine State, with the Arakan army. And one thing is important, which is that fighting an insurgency and running a country or a province or governing the territory is not the same thing. There can be initial euphoria of victory, but then when you come down to governing, you have to take care of many other things. And I think that the Arakan army, whichever authority they have, and their people, they are sensible enough to recognize that to govern, they also have to take care of all the people who are living there, and also people who belong there, which are the Rohingya people. I am sure that they will recognize this, and then accordingly, some modus vivendi will come out by which the Rohingyas can go.
I have a question about the future of Bangladesh foreign policy directions, and the question is, Bangladesh has historically maintained a balanced and non-aligned foreign policy. Now, do you see or do you foresee any shift in this position, given the fact that we are now having competing pressures from China's Belt and Road Initiative and American Indo-Pacific strategy? Are you going to tilt to one side, or will have a delicate balance between these two?
Thank you. Actually, the term non-aligned has become almost defunct these days. Non-aligned, the term became prominent when there was two alignments in the world, and although most of the non-aligned countries, as I have seen, were actually aligned to one of the two camps, most of them, very few were truly non-aligned. Now say, Cuba was a non-aligned country, but it was very close to the Soviet Union and almost a part of the alliance, things like that. I would rather insist on the balanced relation. Balanced relation because non-aligned or not, even aligned countries also have balanced relation with other countries. So for Bangladesh, for a country like Bangladesh, it's extremely important that we maintain a balanced relation. We have been through various phases of our political life. We have seen, by and large, a balanced relation. Well, with immediate neighbor, there are issues for which, relations sometimes seen as going up or going down. But the fact remains that every government ultimately has to pursue a relation with this a very large neighbor, and that's what every government will do. We are doing, and I'm sure the next government, whichever comes, will do that. At the same time, we have to maintain the balance with others also. So There is a balance between adversaries. For example, China and India are to an extent adversaries. But we have friendly relations with both countries. We are not per se aligned with any of those. Out of that, if you speak of the US, if you just think of these three major powers, the US has a conflicting relation with China. We have a friendly relation with China. That doesn't mean that we have to have conflicting relation with the US. We are trying to maintain, and we are maintaining the maximum possible friendly relation with the US because it is our biggest market for our products. We have a huge diaspora there who are important in all the ways. And the US is US, the only country in the world with that status. So if we think of these three countries, we have to maintain a balance, and I think that we are doing it quite well. There can be some hiccups. In any change situation it does happen, but then by and large and in the long term, of course, we have balanced relation with all three countries.
Fantastic. Before opening the floor, may I request the session chair or Vice Chancellor if you have any question or comments on. Then the floor is open. We can take a few questions. There's a question from the back side of the student. Yes.
I think I have to take a little note because otherwise I'll forget.
You want to write something, sir?
আমি নিশ্চয়ই প্রত্যেকটা তো আলাদাভাবে উত্তর দেবো না, তাই না? একসাথে পরে যে কটা প্রশ্ন নেবেন কয়েকটা প্রশ্নের পরে একবারে ক্লাসটা।
So Saru will take like this in 3 questions and then answer them together.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. My name is Naim Rafiq. I'm from the Department of International Relations, Dhaka University. So my question would be, if we look back to our foreign policy for so many years, do you think that it has been a bit too much, a bit too submissive to the point where the other countries weren't taking us too seriously? Like we weren't that confrontational at all, to the point where they were like not respecting us in a way. And now that the regime has changed, and so we have our foreign policy and policy, do you think it's time where we become a bit more bold, a bit more confrontational with our foreign policy, and put a bit more pressure on other countries like Myanmar, so that they take us a bit more seriously and they feel the heat a bit too? Thank you.
Next question. On the left. Student, yes.
Hello, Honorable Advisor, sir, esteemed academicians, policymakers and our well-wisher friends from abroad. Assalamu alaikum and greetings. I am Salman Sakib Kansami, currently reading in honors first year in University of Dhaka, International Relations. Maybe I am the youngest one here who is daring to question our distinguished elders, so please forgive me if I make any mistake. The 2 following questions are for our Honorable Advisor for External Affairs, MD Tauhid Hussain sir. In 1971, when 10 million Bengalis took refuge in India, Indian government didn't speak with the great number of refugees. They used their diplomatic corps, used their friendship with USSR and directly intervened in war and strictly took action against Pakistan. The situation in Myanmar is just like same as in Pakistan. Same oppressive government, internal conflict and ethnic cleansing. Also, world is again heading toward another Cold War. Also, we have remembered that it has been 7 years that the Rohingya people infiltrated into Bangladesh. If we don't take proper and bold steps as soon as possible, we will have such a generation of Rohingyas who are born in Bangladesh and would rather prefer staying Bangladesh as their native country rather than Myanmar, as they haven't seen it by their own. Is it possible to solve the issue diplomatically? If not, does we have the hard power to use against the Janta and force them to take back the Rohingyas?
Thank you.
Second question is, Rohingyas are ethnically a fragmented part of Bengali people. As we know, Bangla is the world's 4th largest language and Bengalis are one of the largest ethno-linguistic communities. As we also know that world is going through a great transition period like the post-war period. Multiple states and actors are rising.
Excellent.
Bangladesh is the only nation in the world keeping Bengali nationalism as the key state motto. Moreover, Bangladesh is located in the heart center of the new great game of the world. We have the full potential to be a regional power.
I think you have made your point.
We have gone through a bloody revolution.
I think you have made your point. You have made your point.
Fantastic. Third question from Dr. Fahim Hussain, front row. He teaches at Arizona State University. Dr. Fahim.
Thank you. So, Honorable Advisor, it's been an honor to be here, and Thank you, Ashok bhai, for inviting me here. So I have two questions for you. One is, it's absolutely amazing to see and hear the current government, the way you guys are making progress, some tangible progress rather than lip services. I'm just wondering, once this transitory government is replaced at some point with a political government, how we can make sure that the achievements you are making can be sustainable and not be reversed in any way. So what are the things that we can do to make sure that we can reverse and gain on that advantage? Number two is how to best utilize the academia for this kind of diplomacy and whatsoever. Because as a Bangladeshi American, I feel like we are missing out on the opportunity to have that nexus between academia and practitioners to work on this crisis, but also to utilize to external scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me from the behind? Okay. Regime change in Bangladesh, so more bold steps, pressure on Myanmar. You are aware about the term, how you can really have leverages. Now, just because there has been a regime change here, it doesn't mean that our leverages have drastically changed. So it's not that we can be, of course, we are being firm. I use the word firm rather than bold or anything. We have been very firm on many issues of foreign policy, at least for the last 6 months, and that includes the Rohingya issue. And now, pressure on the Myanmar authorities per se is not going to work because they are not there on the border. They are not in Rakhine State at all, almost, with one or two exceptions, one or two places. So what we have to do is that, of course, we continue to do our diplomatic work, and the pressure has to be brought in from other countries which have more leverage vis-a-vis Myanmar. So that, I think, is our job as the EU. And second question, 10 million against Pakistan, which was part of Bangladesh. It was not done only diplomatically. It was, again, as I have always mentioned, that such things never are resolved through peaceful means only. It came through a war in which the Soviet Union used its veto not to stop the war. That's how it became possible. I don't think that situation prevails today in this world. One, and then the asymmetry of power that existed between Pakistan and India, particularly with the half of Pakistan, that is Bangladesh, more than half of Pakistan, siding with the interests of India and their interests converging. Our interest was independent, India's interest also had against Pakistan, so that converged. There is no such convergence as such in the present situation. It is very dangerous to say that they are a fragmented part of the Bangladesh or Bengali speaking people. They are a distinct community, and we must always remember that they are a distinct community and recognize them. We have had discussion on their identity and recognition, so that is very important. We should never delve into this area. Progress this interim government has doing good work. Thank you very much for the compliments. I think the time for evaluation comes towards the end of this term of this government. It's not now. Whether we have really done well will be judged by history. For that, in fact, it's true of every regime, every government that does it. Whatever we do, can this be sustainable? I believe that if not all, much of it will be sustainable because there is some sort of a unanimity among the people. May not be among all politicians, but among the people there is a real desire for some changes which should become permanent, not changeable at the whims of the government in power. Academia, I firmly believe that I have the professor here knows that I have been very strongly involved with the Foreign Service Academy. When it was not like this, it was a much smaller place. It began like that, and I firmly believe that there should be collaboration with the academia. In fact, we are at this academy collaborating with the International Relations Department. This, I believe, should continue at every level, and the academia can really help by converging on and conversing on issues that really affect the country's interest and interact with the government. And I think the scope for such interaction should be increased and should be made easy. Thank you.